We've been exploring what must be included in employment income, and we've looked at benefits, the all-inclusive language around that. We've looked at some exceptions to benefits that can be excluded from employment income. Benefits are included in employment income at section 6.1, paragraph A. And now we're looking at another inclusion for personal living expenses, and we're still at 6.1. Now we're in paragraph B. And it says that you have to include in income all amounts received by the taxpayer in the year as an allowance for personal or living expenses, or as an allowance for any other purpose. And again, we see some very broad, very all-inclusive language. There is, again, some exceptions. Now, the list here is a little bit longer, but very often very specific to certain things, such as travel for Canadian forces, things required by Act of Parliament. So we're going to be concerned with only two exceptions to this. And that is a traveling allowance given to either a salesperson or non-salesperson, where the allowance was based solely on kilometers driven for employment purposes. What this means then is if an employee uses their own vehicle to fulfill the duties of employment, the employer can compensate them by way of an allowance, provided the allowance is reasonable and based solely on kilometers. So the employee would need to keep a log, submit it to the employer, and the employer would then reimburse them based on a per kilometer amount. Right now, that amount probably would be somewhere around between 50 and 55 cents would be considered reasonable. An employee who is in receipt of a travel allowance that's based solely on kilometers can choose to exclude that from employment income. As we see later, they have the option of bringing it into employment income and claiming some expenses instead.